Here it is, Fireside Chat with the Guru. Hello. The 19th of December. The official statement and explanation of the previous tax cuts that I mentioned in the last podcast. By definition, the Bush tax cuts were two tax code changes that President George Bush authorized during his term. Congress enacted tax cuts to families in 2001 and to investors in 2003. They were supposed to expire at the end of 2010. Instead, Congress extended them for 2 more years. And as a result, they were a major issue in the 2012 presidential campaign. Candidates debated over whether Congress should continue them for those making $250,000 or more. They were extended permanently as part of the deal to avoid the fiscal cliff. Mind you, segue into the reality of the situation. If you have been a subscriber, paid close enough attention to the podcast, we are staring at that cliff now. President Bush also authorized the U.S. Treasury to mail out a one-time tax rebate in 2008. It was unsuccessful in preventing the financial crisis. Now, that being said, I was on the brunt end of the most crucial of blows experienced to a young man under the age of 30. I lost the property where I moved in, moved my wife in there, moved my vehicles inside, and had all of my personal belongings there, only to have it put out on the street. To come back home and realize that everyone in the neighborhood had been snarfing through all of my personables, not to mention unmentionables as well. The income tax cut 2001 had been referred to as the EGTRRA. Crazy enough, he authorized the tax cut. The long term is the Economic Growth and Tax Relief Reconciliation Act, EGTRRA. It stimulated the economy during the 2001 recession. It saved taxpayers, but increased the debt by $1.35 trillion over a 10-year period. The Urban Institute said the tax cuts benefited families with children the most. It also helped those with incomes over $200,000. Now, does any of this cause the red lights in your brain to start going off? Who was ballyhooing all over the campaign trail before they were elected as the president-elect about tax cuts? I'm not going to name any names any longer because I had been doing that for the better part of this year. It was designed to expire in 2011, these tax cuts. Now, mind you, little did the originators know that's when the economy was still struggling to recover from the worst recession since the Great Depression. Now, think back. You go back 10 podcasts prior. February, March. We are in recession right now in the United States of America. And the Fed, as of last week, raised the interest rates a 0.5 percentage point. While at the same time, the Social Security Administration had come out, and all of the charts are here in the last three podcasts behind us. They only increased the monthly wages administered and allowed to retirees and those on SSA 3%. But the cost of your rent, housing, has gone up 3.8%. Now, the cost of all medical allowances and or pricing structure to get your medicaments, pills, prescriptions, whatever, doctor's visits is up 4.8%. Who's going to cover the middle ground? Who's going to cover up the middle ground? That being said, we're going to move forward for you. I'm going to cut this kind of close. the JGTRRA, which is the Business Investment Tax Cut of 2003. I did state that they gave out two separate tax cuts, one in 2001, one in 2003. 2003, Bush authorized the Jobs and Growth Tax Relief Reconciliation Act, JGTRRA. It reduced tax rates on long-term capital gains and dividends to 15%. It also accelerated the provisions in the EGTRRA that were supposed to be phased in gradually. It increased tax deductions for small businesses. It was supposed to expire in 2012. Crazy. Things that make you go, The income tax rebate in 2008 that I addressed a few minutes ago. Congress approved the $168 billion Bush tax rebate in early 2008. Everyone got tax relief on the first $6,000 of taxable income for individuals and the first $12,000 of income for couples. People received a check in the mail which felt like free money. Instead, they were getting their tax withholding back. Each rebate dollar spent generated $1.19 in additional economic growth. The one-time rebate was a little more than 1% of gross domestic product, or GDP. This is all by virtue of the one-time tax rebate check that was sent to every family. That should have been enough to boost economic growth, but the collapse of the Lehman Brothers, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and AIG, the huge insurance company, later in the same summer destroyed all confidence in the global banking system, and it negated any positive effect of the tax rebates by plunging the U.S. economy into 5 quarters of recession. But go back to my February-March podcast. We are in recession now. My quote at the time was 2 negatives do not equal a positive. And if they continue to promising rate hikes to us, and they're giving it now, this is the second year they have us waiting until December, the week before Christmas, and they raise a 1/4 percentage point, which is meaningless in the grand scheme of things. I leave you there and wish you guys a happy holidays. Please check out the charts for yourself. Look at the math. The links are live attached to the podcast and at the end of the YouTube video that you're watching. Please do your own homework, quote unquote, your own due diligence, and be in contact with me. Like, rate, subscribe, and share the podcast. Sharing is caring. In words of a mentor, my godfather, rest in peace. I look forward to talking to you soon. And